A few days ago, I posted something on LinkedIn that, as of this taping, has 15,000 impressions, 270 likes, and 45 reposts. While those numbers aren't very big here on YouTube, they're pretty sizable on LinkedIn, maybe 3 times higher than anything else I've posted there before. What was this successful post? Just what I've been talking about on this channel lately. The way bad therapy is conducted and promoted, particularly on social media. So I thought I'd use this video to go over that sort of viral post, expanding on the 5 main points that I made. This is number 7 in a series of videos that I'm making on bad therapy. The things that some therapists do on purpose, not by accident, that actually hurts psychotherapy. There's a link to that playlist at the end of this video. I'm Dr. Stephen Reidbord. I challenge misleading or oversimplified messages about mental health that you see everywhere on social media and in our society generally. If you like what I'm doing here, please like this video and subscribe to More Than Meds. In the LinkedIn post, I start by saying that it's sad that we live in an age of quick fix mental health. And then I list 5 signs that we're in such an age. The first sign is the most complicated, as I lump together 7 trendy or faddish ideas that are very popular on social media. I'll get to them one by one in a second. The problem with each one is that each is presented as the way to understand a person's emotional life, as though nothing else is particularly important. And my point here is not to say that each of these points is not important or that it's silly, but that it's only part of a much bigger picture. The first is attachment style, a useful but I think overused model that divides people into those who have a secure attachment style, an insecure attachment style, an avoidant attachment style, or a disorganized attachment style. It's a useful idea, but any model that divides people into 4 types has to be leaving out some details, right? It's a little bit like saying in astrology that all Libras are the same, or that the Chinese zodiac predicts how a person will be because they were born in the year of the snake. There aren't 4 kinds of people in this world, or 12 kinds of people. It's more complicated than that. Another faddish theory that gets a lot of coverage is the focus on trauma. And there are therapists who specialize in trauma, and that's perfectly fine if their practices are devoted to combat veterans or maybe victims of violent crimes like rape victims or people who've had bad assault and battery committed against them. But all too often, this focus on trauma is brought in to explain everything in mental health. That's clearly an oversimplification. Trauma is important, but people react differently to the same kinds of bad things that happen to them in life. Their different reactions are based on the temperament they were born with, on their early childhood experience, on their sense of self, and many other factors. Focusing on trauma alone is intellectually lazy. I talk about that in this video right here. Neurodivergence gets a lot of attention on social media these days, and that's a good thing if it shines a light on something that's previously been overlooked. But on social media, quote-unquote neurodivergence expands to cover all sorts of things that are maybe better described as personality. Not to mention that people with ADHD or who are on the autism spectrum, they have emotions and personalities just like anyone else. At best, this is a factor in one's functioning, but it's not the whole story by a long shot. I also listed 4 other fad theories under this first point that I won't belabor here. You'll see plenty on social media about dopamine addiction, about the Myers-Briggs personality inventory, the MBTI, another way of dividing people into a small number of categories. about all emotional problems boiling down to unhealthy beliefs, that it's all in the way you think, or that everything's due to a quote-unquote chemical imbalance. All 7 of these recall the parable of the blind men and the elephant. One feels the trunk and the other feels the leg and another feels the tail. They don't get the big picture. The next point in my post criticized the way some therapists divide people into oppressed and oppressor groups. Sometimes this is called an identitarian approach. And of course, the client, as well as the therapist, are always in the oppressed group. You never hear about oppressors needing therapy, which is a little strange given that therapy for the oppressors would probably be more effective in fighting oppression. Of course, if they focused on that, the therapist couldn't identify with the client and vice versa, which is really the point of that whole framework. As I discuss in this video, right there, using the lens of patriarchy or heteronormativity or capitalism replaces psychotherapy with political advocacy. And in the meantime, it ignores the uniqueness of the individual. No one is defined by membership in an identity group. Any identity group that you can name is composed of a multiplicity of opinions and viewpoints. Traditional depth psychotherapy is, by definition, about what makes a person unique, not what makes them a member of a class or an identity. The third point in my viral-ish post is on online checklists that people turn to help identify who's a sociopath or how to spot a narcissist. In this video, right here, where I try to be funny for a change, I talk about how such checklists wildly oversimplify complex psychological ideas like narcissism or sociopathy. They give the public a false sense of feeling like they know what those words mean, and they encourage people to label each other. At best, use of these psychological or psychiatric terms in common discussions and discourse are just a fancy way of dissing somebody else's personality. The fourth point refers to the use of artificial intelligence, AI, as a makeshift therapist. Now, there have been efforts to create AI specifically as a therapist, and those have problems of their own. But far more people use general-purpose AI like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude as a therapist when they were never designed for that purpose. This is a tricky issue, as it's no surprise that many people will turn to something that's cheap or relatively inexpensive and widely available when therapy itself is expensive and often hard to come by. Long before AI, people bought self-help books and they talked to untrained people like bartenders and hairdressers, or they took comfort in nature or in their church or with their friends. Getting help and support outside of professional psychotherapy is common, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But before AI, nobody confused a self-help book with getting real psychotherapy. Nobody thought that their bartender or their best friend was really a psychotherapist. At best, talking to ChatGPT is a form of self-reflection. At worst, it can give you harmful advice and it can share information that you thought was private. Bottom line is, talking to AI is not psychotherapy. And I talk about that right there. And the fifth and final point takes aim at social media influencers themselves. People who don't popularize careful scientific advice, but instead they chase popularity and sometimes significant income, if they're successful, by being the most sensationalistic. They know that taking extreme positions helps to solidify their brand. It attracts viewers. They know that expressing false outrage or too good to be true solutions to life's problems, that's the key to success. No one becomes a successful influencer by talking, like I do, about long-term psychotherapy, often difficult, often not fun, leading to small, subtle changes that can affect your life ever after. Or for that matter, about the value of psychiatric medications in selected cases. I appreciate your interest, those of you who are watching right now, but I'd be a much more successful YouTuber if I talked to you about the one essential thing you have to do every morning in order to be happy, or the 3 ways to banish negative energy from your life. In fact, I'm astounded by the popularity of simplistic anti-psychiatry and anti-psychiatric medication videos right here on YouTube. They get thousands of subscribers and views, and I get a few hundred. Why is that? Because they're capitalizing on anger, outrage. They have a simple message based in anger. There are good guys and bad guys. The battle lines are clear. They're defending the downtrodden. And viewers like anger and outrage. It's exciting. You never hear about the vast majority of psychiatric patients who quietly get better and appreciate their treatment. Wouldn't be an interesting thing to watch, would it? I don't say any of this to push psychiatric medications. Please be clear. This channel is called More Than Meds because I don't emphasize medication management. Many of the patients I see are not on psychiatric medications. The point is, taking extreme stands is the recipe for social media success, and exactly the wrong thing for really healing emotionally. I ended my post by saying, so many people seek simple answers to complex questions. Because everything I had listed, everything I've just been talking to you about today, are simple answers to complex questions. I wrap up by saying that mental health professionals, my colleagues, have to acknowledge, have to recognize that people seek simple answers. They wish for them. It's only human after all. But we mental health professionals have to stand fast for the complexity of the human mind. It's reality. And if we don't stand for that, no one else will. And that apparently touched a nerve. Do you really think anyone has a simple answer to the problem of human misery? What they have is snake oil, bullshit, which makes what they post or say on social media meme-worthy. The very effort to become a brand online erodes the quality of psychotherapy. There's a technical paper making the rounds right now, I'll put a link to it in the description, that argues that selling oneself as an ally or an advocate or a lifestyle choice is bad for psychotherapy. It may be initially comforting, but ultimately it's unhelpful. And you see it all the time on social media, and it's a damn shame. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like this video and share it if you're so inclined. Please subscribe if you have not already. And as mentioned, this video is part of a playlist about bad therapy, bad therapists, and there's a link to the playlist. Thanks, and I'll talk to you next time.